Hello, I'm Aqila, and in this video I'll introduce you to the black and white rag and its composer Pottsford, as well as background information such as what ragtime is and what happened during that time. Ragtime is a style that originated in the USA, specifically from the southern and midwestern states, and especially in Missouri. Ragtime preceded blues and all types of jazz. It itself was preceded by cakewalks, which was music that accompanied a dance competition in African American culture, where cake is given as a prize. Ragtime was very popular around 1890 to early 1900s. The term rag may have come from ragging, which means taking a simple melody and breaking up the rhythms. Ragtime was the rock and roll or pop of its time. Young people loved it and the music defined an era. It also became a nationwide fad. Ragtime increased demands of pianos because the music is mainly associated with the solo piano. Ragtime is associated with the solo piano because early players were said to be solo pianists who played in saloons, restaurants, and honky-tonk spots for entertainment. The music spread through sheet music and piano rolls. This was before radios were invented. You may have known ragtime from Scott Joplin's pieces, The Entertainer and Maple Leaf Rag. Musically, ragtime pieces have some things in common: duple time, moderate to fast tempo, straight quavers, lightly syncopated melodies, 16th note themes, an umcha accompaniment, and a specific form which has 3 or 4 distinct sections. The 1890s and 1900s saw great technological progress, advancements in arts and literature, and scientific discoveries such as X-rays, radioactivity, and several elements. It was at the time of the Second Industrial Revolution, which allowed mass production of vehicles, appliances, and, pianos. However, the 1890s was also a time of an economic depression in the US, which was nicknamed the Panic of 1893. There were also labor strikes. George Pottsford was born in South Dakota in 1874. He had a good amount of musical training in his childhood. He moved to New York in 1902 and stayed there for the rest of his life. He was a composer, pianist, orchestra director, and conductor. He composed Black and White Rag in 1908, and it became a hit because of its playability for the average pianist. And the Black and White Rag remains as his most famous composition. Now that the groundwork is done, it's time for some analysis. We'll cover the general information first, and then we'll dive into the specifics. The piece is composed for solo piano. It has a general form of intro, A, B, A', and C. Up to A', the piece is in G major. The C section is in C major. It is common for ragtime music to change keys midway. The piece is diatonic. It is in duple time, typical of ragtime music. It also has the typical ragtime rhythms, syncopated yet having straight 8th and 16th notes, and also a lot of 16th notes in general. There are chromatic notes that mainly serve as passing non-chord tones. There's also the classic umcha accompaniment. The piece is mostly homophonic, with a unison section in the first few bars. Now let's go to some detailed analysis. Let's start with the intro, the first 4 bars. There is a unison section on the first 2 bars. You can already see the syncopated rhythms. Bars 3 and 4 show the sometimes chromatic nature of the melody. The rest of the page is what I'll call section A. First, look at the phrasing. Very neat 4-bar, 8-bar phrases like the typical classical piece. The chords are nothing too out of the ordinary, perhaps for accessibility to the common ear. The left hand plays the umcha accompaniment. Also notice how many block chords and broken chords are used. You're bound to find more later on. You can also see how the melody is constructed. It seems broken up, like what I talked earlier about what ragging means. I'll call the first half of the second page section B. This has a different idea than section A. While section A is broken up melodies, section B is almost all broken chords, despite it having some broken up melodies. Everything else about it musically are the same concept as section A. The latter half of the page I will call section A prime. Nothing more to say here, it's just like section A but without the repeat. The next page is what I call section C. It's in another key. Some ragtime pieces have a da capo al fine after the C section, much like a minuet and trio, another classical form, but this one doesn't. The melodic ideas are rehashes of previous sections, the first half like section A and the second half like section B. I do find it fascinating that the first half of section C and section A have their melodic ideas reversed. Otherwise, there's not much to say that I haven't said before. Before we end this video, I'll leave you with a fun fact. Black and White Rag became a soundtrack of the 1985 computer game Ragtime, which was designed by Tim Tyler, who was 15 or 16 at the time. Thanks for watching. The background music is me playing the Black and White Rag.